And then I'm going to come in there and turn off that fireplace too if it's on. I think it is. I hear a hum.
Don't we hit it with a light?
You just turn off the very middle button, like towards the...
Very middle button.
I'm sorry, the farthest to the left, I think is what you'd say.
The very middle button.
I'm sorry, the farthest to the...
All right, I'm posting the YouTube stuff.
Okay. Yeah, we're up on YouTube.
At all.
You get it, Amy, or should I come in there?
Is it behind here?
No, it's kind of hidden. It's hard to... I'll show you. No, it's on the screen. Go ahead and sit down.
Okay,
It's right here.
Sit
Yeah.
down.
Right here.
Oh. That doesn't even look like a button, but I see.
No, it doesn't. It's hidden.
Okay. Okay. I kind of liked having it on, though.
I know, it just puts a hum in the line.
I get it.
What?
All right, and let's see.
Do you hear like a?
I do. Is that
Flutter?
is that my computer?
I don't have it.
It might be your
Oh.
computer.
No,
it's in the
I hear it
headphones.
in the headphones.
Maybe it's your computer. It's something in Gabe's,
What does it sound like?
like a fan almost. You don't hear that?
I do.
I hear Gabe typing.
Javier and I are hearing like a little something
Like
in
a
the
little
headphones, and I don't know if it's a problem. It's not that big of a problem.
Okay. And we'll start the commercial here in about 20 seconds.
It's a problem. We'll hear.
If it's a problem,
Which
we'll
one do
hear
you
it.
want me to use when I'm tagging you and stuff?
Oh, what is this?
I don't know.
What
Support
app?
for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am GOP strategist and not about to take direction about production things from Amy Koch, Brian McDaniel.
And I'm former Republican Senate Majority Leader, Amy Koch.
I am Democratic strategist, the Puerto Rican Heat, and I mean, Amy was right. We were talking over the commercial.
But it was about
Javier Murillo.
but it was about podcast related things. And we are
Wrong
about
about
everything.
everything. We just-
Hey, everybody.
Yes, we're. I was so today at work. I was like, I realized I'm like, oh, I'm super cranky today. I should probably stop replying to emails.
Oh.
So that explains
You
the
were
vibe.
cranky?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
Brian's
it's
just-
like everyone was
I'm
annoying the
always
hell out of me. I was
cranky
just
now.
like, I was like, you know, can you just settle down?
He's always
I
cranky.
kind of feel like I'm less crabby today than normal. I think generally you are right that this is my crabby time of the
It is your
of the
crabby
legislative
time.
session.
Yep. And
But,
also just like low blood sugar, maybe hour of the day for you.
let's check. Talk amongst yourselves.
What he's Brian's checking
Oh, yeah,
his glucose.
no, we're doing great. Look,
What's
we're- we're-
good or what's bad?
we're at 1. It says green. It's in green. Green's
is-
good.
I'm
What
for
does
some
that mean?
colorblind, so I
Okay,
can't
no
see
one
the color.
knows. This is an audio format,
Well,
so no one
only
knows. what you're talking
partially.
about.
Some people okay.
Well,
Yeah, no. My blood glucose is 116, which is in the good range.
You just looked on an app.
It's
are you?
my arm?
Oh, I was going to say, can I test mine?
No.
How do I test my glucose?
No, you need an
Dang
injection.
it.
A thing.
All
in your-
right.
Yeah.
How do I get one of those?
You don't. You get diabetes.
Our insurance isn't good enough.
Yeah. All right. Let's get this.
Anyway, welcome to the doctor's office. No, welcome to the Minnesota Credit Union Network Studios, deep within the recesses of MBC Studios here in Northeast Minneapolis. We have comedian Gabe Noah working the booth for us, and we are glad that you are here. It is Javier, Amy, and Brian today, and we want to continually direct you to our YouTube channel, please. We are continuing to get subscribers and views there, and we're trying to push more and more of you there if you're able. So take a gander at us there and like and subscribe, please. Also, check out our website, www.wrongaboutEverything-podcast.com.
So on-air production meeting.
Yes.
Are we going to have an audition for like the permanent fourth Democrat?
You know what? I think we should.
I think we should, like kind of like a Menudo thing.
I didn't like it when we did it before because.
When you did what?
Well, because remember we had
Well, should we have people submit videos?
Yeah, you submit videos. Yeah.
like the record to reflect. I will not participate. I don't want to say no to people that are valuable friends of the program.
Oh, I'm fine saying no.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So we'll lose a listener.
send it to Javier.
Brian hates any kind of controversy.
Well,
Yeah, you avoid conflict.
Always.
expertly, I might add.
You work
Everybody-
in politics.
I know, and everybody likes me. You should just watch me walking around
I
that
know.
building. I'm just Johnny, everyone's friend.
Okay,
Okay,
Johnny.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it funny when someone's self-perception might be very different from others' perception of you?
He's Johnny, everyone's friend.
Johnny,
Johnny, everyone's
I always say it's a 95-5 rule. 95% of people find me delightful, but the 5% who don't are extremely dedicated to it.
they are.
They have meetings. They have T-shirts. I think I've seen a bumper sticker.
I know some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
Let's go.
talk
Do
about
we do
our
Bradshaw and Bryant?
our good friends at Bradshaw and Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. Now, I feel bad because we're going to have a lot of first-time listeners
Why?
this week because people came up to me. Multiple people today came up to me wanting to make sure that you, Javier, were going to be on the podcast to give your expert insider analysis of what is happening with Minnesota's soon-to-be vacant junior Senate seat.
Well, first we should back up. So, true to form, after our
After the
podcast on
podcast.
Wednesday, big news made on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
About 10 a.m., a tweet went out from current U.S. Senator Tina Smith that said she will not be running for re-election. She's up in 2026, and the Minnesota political scene went.
I was at it was Transportation Day at the Capitol, so I was at a Transportation Day event when I got the news. Governor Tim Walz was at the event as well and had just got done speaking. So then I saw it on the Twitters and I sent it to people I know there. And then everyone's political life changed significantly. But before we get into the laundry list of people that are
Yeah, let's before that. Let me just say a little something about
about Senator Smith, yes.
Senator Smith and stepping down. And so, and so just anyone who listens to this or knows me knows this, but just full disclosure, both Tina Smith and Peggy Flanagan are personal friends of mine. They not to drop names, but they just are.
Real.
For real. I've been friends with Tina since way before she was.
Everybody in politics goes, I like them. But
Yeah,
like,
no,
you know, you're-
Tim
I grew
Pawlenty
up
told me
people-
you guys
they
were
like,
all close.
Like they like literally come to my birthday parties. That kind of friend.
Yeah.
I'm friends with them too because everybody likes me.
So after Senator Smith was elected to her full term, the six years.
Yes, because she ran first in 2018, but it was because Al Franken stepped down in December of 2017, and she was
Lieutenant governor.
She was lieutenant governor. Dayton appointed her to the Senate seat at the end of 2017. She had to run for that seat in 2018 or in that election, but that was only to fill the 2 years of the term, and so she had to run again in 2020. So, given it's a 6-year term, she would be up for re-election in 2026 for the first time, like the real cycle or the whole cycle. Yep.
And so after she won that re-election and she won it handily.
Jason Lewis.
Jason was the first time was
Karn.
Was Karn,
So
yeah,
for the-
yeah,
yep.
and the second time Jason Lewis, yeah. So she called me. She asked we set up a time for us to talk, and she told me she was having this conversation with a lot of different people in her life, including like some Senate colleagues, whatever, and she was really trying to very seriously grapple with like what kind of a senator do I want to be, what I want to do, and I was, as always, very impressed with her thoughtfulness. And one of the things she had said to me then, she said, "Look, I'm trying to think of this job, understanding that I do not intend to do what my colleagues here do, which is to stay until they get wheeled
Dianne
out."
Feinstein.
Yeah, Dianne Feinstein, and
Mitch
many
McConnell.
others, and yeah, and so I did not. So that was not. She did not say to me, "I'm not going to run for re-election at the end of
she
6
said,
years."
"I'm not here."
But what we talked about, she said, was how do I do the job of senator in a way that lays the groundwork for leaders behind me. And we talked about the role, the work that she has done in the past, mentoring people in politics, especially women. And we talked about what she would do in these 6 years to do that. And I have seen her do that. I've seen her, like, in terms of the people she hires, how she operates in politics. She really is someone who in a short period of time has really made room for people behind her, and has featured the leader, has put the leadership of other people front and center, and she has been a very progressive senator, and so she was really very quickly beloved by a lot of Democrats, because she showed, as others have in that seat in the past, that there's a theory that the way you be a senator statewide is to be as to be as middle of the road and milquetoast as possible, and she I think had broad appeal, but also stood by her values, was very strong, and on a whole host of issues, especially choice. And so I just have the utmost respect for her, because she could stay in that seat. Incumbents are hard to defeat.
Yeah. And she's young. She's healthy.
Yeah,
she could have stayed. Certainly another term or two.
And what she told John and me the day that announcement, and it was actually funny. So she had sent us an email to give us a heads up that morning, and then the announcement happened, but neither of us had seen the email. So she's like, "I went to the trouble of giving you guys a heads up." I'm like, "I'm sorry." But one of the things she said to us, I think she said this publicly too, is that when she became a senator, she was not a grandma. And that she and Archie, her husband, now have 2 grandkids. Her father is 95 and is alive and kicking, and he's still driving and living life in New Mexico and doing well and whatever. And she's wants to enjoy her life. And so I just have the utmost respect for her decision to do that. So just wanted to get that out of the way before we talk about the scrum about who.
And so for my time with Senator Smith and her time before, right? So my first time working with her was when she was the chief of staff for Governor Dayton. She started as chief of staff for Governor Dayton. For his second term, he brought her on board as his lieutenant governor, and then appointed her to the U.S. Senate. And then she ran again in 2020. She won the special in 2018 and then ran again in 2020. So one of my favorite stories is in 2012, it was 2011. So it was when I was majority leader, and we were dealing with the budget showdown and the Dayton budget shutdown, which was almost all of July, longest shutdown in state history. And there was a moment where, of course, the chief of staff was in many of the negotiations, and there was a group of us that were headed over to the governor's for a meeting. And at the time, I had been at the Capitol, 23 hours a day, because you really felt like, even though sometimes if we were not negotiating, we were trying to figure out a path forward. You just were doing all kinds of like media, and it was a very, very difficult time. And at one point, my parents brought my daughter to see me like I was in jail. Like they brought her to me because I hadn't been able to. And I said, "Can you please just bring her down? I miss her. Please bring her down." Which turned out to be maybe one of the worst things I could do, because it really like set me emotionally. It was very difficult for me. And then I had to leave Rachel and go to one of these negotiations. And I walked into the governor's office, and then Chief of Staff Tina Smith saw that I was not in a good place. And she very quickly said, "Hey, do you want to just come back to my office?" And she just took me to her office, and we sat there for a while, and she let me like calm down and sort of like have a horrible moment. And then we stood up, wiped off my eyes, and out we went back into negotiations. But I will not forget that. I will never forget that. That was a very nice moment. She and I don't agree on anything. I ran Senator Karen Housley's campaign when she ran against her in 2018. And even after that, Senator Smith and I have always had a very nice. She sent me. I did an op-ed, and she would be the first one when I get hit by the car. The first text out of the gate was
car
Senator
bucks?
Tina Smith.
I can't believe you found a way to put the car bucks in
I'm
here.
sorry, but it's true. The very first person to text me was Senator Smith. Like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?"
Yeah.
So
And
anyway, so that's the kind of person she was.
And
politically, do not agree, but just
One thing I also just want to say
Such a good person.
about the way she's been senator. So like there in Talk of the Town, is that a Politico or a Washington Post thing? I don't know. Maybe. There's like they asked Norm Coleman about her announcement, and he said he wasn't surprised. He said, "I've never seen her have the passion that one might have, and she's certainly been in the shadow of Klobuchar, who's a dynamic major presence." I just want to this from the guy who is he's a washed up politician who's most recently playing hall monitor for Pete Hegseth, and I could not just disagree more with that. First of all, folks that, like I said, progressives have really followed her because she's like very tough. So I saw someone I don't know has tweeted like, "My timeline is always like Amy Klobuchar saying I got to work with Republicans," and Tina Smith saying Republicans should be raked over coals, whatever, can go to hell she stood up for her values, and she was extremely passionate. She's just not. She decided not to be a lifetime career politician, and good for her.
Well, and I certainly don't have the relationship with her that you guys did. I worked with her when she worked for the city of Minneapolis, and certainly in her other endeavors as well. I always found her to be extremely pleasant, and I guess I never really took her as somebody who wanted or didn't want the spotlight. I just saw her as somebody who kind of came from a staff background, and as somebody who came from
which
a
was
staff.
very about getting things.
Yeah, and so I always saw
moving the ball
that she was much more about, okay, if you get credit, awesome, but the important thing is getting done what you want. So, obviously I probably didn't want the same things that she did, but I always kind of appreciated the way she did them, and she was never unpleasant to anyone that I ever observed. She was very nice to me the few times we've interacted, and she has another year and a half or so, and I wish her well.
Yeah, can I I've told this story before on Wrong About Everything, but we have new listeners. So that when Mark Dayton was running for re-election, and his first lieutenant governor, Yvonne Pretner-Solon, was not going to run with him, there was a lot of speculation about who his running mate would be. And so there was this weekend that was heading up to, we thought there would be an announcement. I texted Tina on a Friday and said, "So these are the names I'm hearing." And Tina wrote back to me and said, "Oh, sweetie, it's me." And I thought she was joking. And so I wrote back, "Ha, ha, ha. That's where careers go to die."
Oops.
And then I heard nothing from my friend Tina. Yeah. and then that Saturday went, and I was like, I didn't even think about it. I sent the text. I didn't even think about the fact that she hadn't replied. I didn't even think of that until Sunday. And then the rumor started getting stronger that it was her. And I was like, oh, I texted her. I was like, "Oh, you weren't kidding."
But you're only wrong because Al Franken couldn't keep his hands to himself. I mean, there might not have been an opportunity for her to do
No.
something.
I meant for lieutenant governor.
Oh,
when
yeah,
no, but
when
now
lieutenant
you're
governor,
saying
that's
you're
her
only
career.
wrong
I'm
that she
saying
went on
her
Senate.
career could have died there, but for Al Franken.
Oh yeah, but even like lieutenant governor, which as lieutenant governor, she really paved the way for our current lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan, because she defined the role very differently. She was like Governor Dayton's. She really was his lieutenant, and for a lot of the time was when he was sick was really running things. So really redefined the role in a way that that then served as a model for Peggy Flanagan, who is.
So did she pave the way for Peggy to U.S. Senate?
Well, we'll see. So let's talk about that.
So
Because that announcement came out very quickly.
very, very quickly. So
and very thoroughly vetted.
It was well thought out. Stream of consciousness, I'm sure. But so the timeline of events was, we got notice of Senator Smith saying she's not going to run again, and then the Twitter speculation machine about who's going to run. You start hearing, is it going to be Walz? Is it going to be Peggy Flanagan? And then Peggy Flanagan, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, came out with an extremely quick, very definitive statement of I am running for U.S. Senate.
She wrote, "I love Minnesota, and my intention is to run for the United States Senate and continue to serve the people of this state.
Yep.
I'll make a formal announcement later this month. In the meantime, I'm talking with community, my family, and friends. I'll have more to say soon."
Yeah. So
And
unambiguous.
I was shocked.
yeah, I bet you were.
You hadn't checked your emails. Once again, you're like, "Oh, you're serious." Peggy's serious.
Yeah. And then what else?
Well, then almost immediately, Walz had a statement in Politico that he was considering a run for U.S. Senate.
Which
then people
they
went like
build
this,
as an
"Ooh."
exclusive.
Yes.
And I can tell you, if you looked at the Minnesota press that day, one can detect a little resentment from the Minnesota press that the governor gave an exclusive to Politico because
it's a national It's
he was-
national versus
because
something Star Tribune.
And the
NPR.
local stories were all about Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and kind of like. And Walz is thinking about it too. Like that, the strip story for most of the day actually didn't have him in it at all, and then added him later. That said, I should say he's a couple days later, he said to MinnPost or someone, not him directly, but someone that if the lieutenant governor formalizes running that he won't run,
But I feel like she was formally running.
It was
I
pretty
assume that-
definitive.
Also, the Governor Walz has a great deal of money in his, and we should talk about this.
$1 million. He has $1 million in
$1 million
state
bucks
money.
in his state Walz reelect campaign
Javier,
refund.
I hope
refund.
I hope that you're right about that because I've been repeating that to people.
No, it's definitely true.
on lots of different platforms.
And we should say, because of strict campaign finance rules, you cannot transfer state money to
A federal race, yeah.
Also, you cannot transfer federal to state because how you collect it is there. There are
Right.
different rules.
There are
So
different rules,
there's a line there. I think
Yeah.
you can give yourself a little bit of money or something, but it's not very much.
And as a Republican and an outsider to that whole process, one would have thought that the governor and the lieutenant governor would have had reasonably similar information and would have spoken about this and kind of said, you're doing A and I'm doing B. It sounds like that didn't happen. But it did make me think a little bit about, you brought up Norm Coleman, back when Norm Coleman and Tim Pawlenty were trying to decide
Yes.
who's running for Senate, who's running for governor, and then at the very last minute, they
Dick
switched.
Cheney. Well, right, because Dick Cheney called. So
Yeah.
originally Norm ran for governor.
Dick Cheney called
and
who?
lost against Jesse Ventura. And then the next time around in 2002, there was a governor's seat open. And there was, because Ventura did not run again, so it was an open seat. And there was an open U.S. Senate seat, I believe. Yes, open U.S.
Yes.
Senate. So, they went back and forth. And then originally, Tim Pawlenty was running for U.S. Senate. And then he got a call from Dick Cheney.
vice president at the time.
Yeah, and I still would say this. This is not behind the scenes, by the way. I went to a convention, and he was not happy about the call. And I remember it was like I think it was the time I was in the CD2, so Congressional District 2, and he did a speech where he got up there and he started to speak, or he was hello, and then he goes, oh, hold on, and he answered his cell phone. And he goes, okay. Then he hangs up and he goes, the vice president said I can speak to you now. At the convention. So this is not like he was, woo.
Wow.
Yeah, someone was salty about it. But in the end, he won the governor and he won 2 terms.
But that wasn't the last time
Good
that
on
Tim
you.
Pawlenty got a call at the last minute with an answer different than what he thought.
What was the other one?
Sarah Palin.
Oh yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no. So I mean, quite obviously, and
He came on the podcast to talk about that.
we've talked about the potential rifts between Walz and Flanagan on this podcast, and you kind of can't ignore that there's obviously something going on there. But what's interesting is one that Peggy Flanagan got out early. Peggy Flanagan, put her stake in the ground on U.S. Senate, kind of making us speculate that, okay, well then Governor Walz is going to then run for governor as a 3rd term. Now, he's under no obligation to do that.
No, is that? I don't know that that's a given.
Our Constitution, Minnesota's Constitution, allows for it, and I think we all assume based on his fundraising.
But tradition has held that no governor has served more than 2 terms.
Law allows it, but Minnesotans
Law allows it,
have
but
not.
Minnesotans have said nope.
No, so there was a reason to believe that he could have been looking at something different, but with maybe the governor staking out the governorship still and Flanagan on the Senate, that's not the only names that
because
have
an
come
open
out.
seat like that.
Oh, yeah.
What does this U.S. Senate open seat come up? Not
not
much.
often.
And as you said, even if as a Republican to run against an incumbent is just difficult. They have all this head steam of they have this all this steam on raising money. They have all this name ID. They have all this advantage of incumbency, which means that they can do constituent emails. They can travel the state. They can do all of these things. They're in the media all the time. They can make anything they
can make
press
news
release
all
they
the
do.
time.
They
Yeah,
make
right.
news, and so there's this advantage. So for both sides, this is a big opportunity. Also, assuming that again, Senator Klobuchar is young and has been gaining power in the U.S. Senate, so it's unlikely that she's going to go anywhere. This is maybe one of very few opportunities that people will have.
Right.
So I'll throw out names. And
Yep.
we don't have. Let's. Some of them are going to be out. So I'll just throw out names, and then we can go back and talk about them. So you hear Governor Walz. You hear Angie Craig, who has said that she is very seriously considering it. You have heard Representative Ilhan Omar's name. You've heard Secretary of State Steve Simon. Dean Phillips, who said he's not running. Certainly, Attorney General Keith Ellison would be a possibility. Other than Phillips, have any of those other kind of high-profile Democrats indicated that they are not considering running?
I do for U.S. Senate.
Yeah, because I haven't heard I haven't heard Steve Simon say he's interested in it. I've just heard people talking about him being interested.
I've heard he's interested in it. Right, and then Representative Omar said thinking about it, and and Keith Ellison said he's thinking about it, and then Angie Craig tweeted that she's considering.
And some of them could pivot to governor if the governor runs for Senate or if he does not run for governor.
Yeah, what else? And so I think probably the person who's probably most seriously at this point. I also heard Melissa Frenzen is considering.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is just interesting because
former senator,
currently
at the
state senator,
former state senator, and I mean she would have to quit her job.
Yeah, for sure.
Quit her job as soon as she announced, probably. I'm guessing.
I would guess.
Yeah.
Yes, it'd be hard to have
and that's not even counting that there could be, I'm sure that there are many local elected officials or people that are state senators currently or state representatives that don't have the name ID, but certainly might have the desire.
I mean, okay, I'll just say, I'm not going to name this, but I heard some people preemptively say, I'm not interested. And I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not interested either. I guess I'll put out a press release.
Well, here's again with an open seat like that, everyone sort of thinks about it for a minute, right? Or I think many people think about it for a minute. And it's interesting to me. First of all, so we have a lot of Democrats, and of course, because Republicans have not won a statewide office since 2006.
Since Tim Pawlenty.
Since Tim Pawlenty, the names of ours, just people are like, well, you don't have a bench. Well, we have a bench. We don't have anyone that has won statewide. That doesn't mean their experience isn't valuable and that they aren't a good candidate.
Yeah, we'll talk
It's
about
just
the
we have
Republican
not
names.
had
Some
it
of them, I mean, a
robust.
couple of them are turds, but a couple of them, we do have a
Wow.
bench.
Okay. Name the turds.
Royce White.
It's like, oh God, he's
He-
such a troll, though.
oh,
He's gonna
just-
come.
Already
It's
put
like,
his name
I
in
mean,
there.
it's like, I'm not on Twitter anymore. You take it. You fight with
Yeah,
him.
I'm sorry. Was I not definitive enough? I will not vote for Royce White. But anyway, I'm sorry. Did any of those other names say that they are out?
Not that I know. Not that I've heard. No.
Okay.
I'll say about what I heard about Angie Craig is that members of the Democratic caucus are upset that she's even thinking about it.
Well, because she turned a lean red seat to a 50-50 seat, and then this last election turned pretty blue. And
Yeah.
it remains to be seen whether that was because of how popular she is in that district. And I live in her district, and I can tell you she does a good job, certainly with the campaign part. But it would, in the next election, it would remain to be seen whether it stayed as blue or whether it went
But
back to
she also-
50-50.
But
She-
from
and it
her
definitely-
perspective,
Right.
she's got to look at a seat because, as you said, she took a lean red seat, turned it
This time, like,
and then
and
turned it deeply blue.
blue.
And you have to look at that and go, well, doesn't that translate well for a statewide candidate?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
in a year where Minnesota can be pretty reliably blue, particularly in statewide, but that's not where the legislature is at. That's not necessarily where things are. Mostly Republicans have just put up some really C grade candidates. I mean, the last time around for governor.
It's also that, like, it's the inverse of, like, we always get Democrats are always by the mainstream media, and Republicans are like, oh, you can't talk to rural America. Well, and the opposite is also true, is that Republicans have increasingly alienated
Suburbs.
not just cities, but suburbs in a way that explains why in
100%.
Minnesota it's been so hard for y'all to win statewide.
Yep, true.
But Angie Craig also, the other thing about her is that she was on the ag committee. She's a ranking. I'm not sure but her colleagues voted for her over two people with greater seniority, which is a big deal. So she's, I think, getting pressure within the Democratic caucus and Congress to stay where she's at. But
Okay.
we'll
I
see
think,
what she
I think
decides.
similarly will happen for Tom Emmer and Pete Stauber. So both of those names for the Republicans have come out. Both of them have been. There was talk of a challenge, or at least running for governor, both of them, and then they both recently came out and said no to a
They ruled that
statewide
out, yeah.
governor's run. They have not, to my knowledge, said definitively no to a U.S. Senate run. So
Yeah. So what did you have next?
Well, the other Republican names. So Amy brought up Congressman Emmer, Congressman Stauber. I brought up Royce White. But the other names you're hearing is State Senator Julia Coleman, who is Norm Coleman's daughter-in-law. We have heard State Senator Karen Housley's name. Kendall Qualls is someone who you hear his name more for governor than Senate, but I think there's going to be a lot of jockeying. Former sideline reporter and the wife of a guy I was friends with in high school, Michelle Tafoya, is another name, and Pat Garofalo. Why not? Throw Pat Garofalo's name out there.
yeah, listen.
He's not doing- he's not
He's
doing
got a Twitter award named after him at the podcast, so he is he's a podcast legend.
I'm going to a concert with him this weekend. I'll make sure
Nice.
I'll get all the deets
You get
there.
all the deets
but
there.
I mean, other than Royce White, and I also think that Scott Jensen has proven that he probably can't win statewide for Senate or for governor. But there are names on there that I think would be extremely formidable in a state. Oh, I didn't mention Representative Kristen Robbins is another person who's
she
very
actually
interested.
announced that she was exploring.
Yep.
Yep.
Who's that?
She's a Maple Grove, and she is. I mean, her name ID statewide would be 0, but she's someone who's an impressive person and would be able to. I think if the Republicans coalesced around her, she would be somebody who could be an attractive statewide
She's also
candidate.
chairing the Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Committee in the House, which is going to catch
So
a lot of attention.
she has a good platform.
Yeah.
I
So there
guess
we
State
go.
Representative Jim Nash. I don't know. I've heard Lisa Damoth's name, but I don't think that's something
She's
that
pretty
she's.
busy.
I think she's going to be focused on trying to win
I think so, too.
to win that House fully and
I
completely.
mean, she's
and
you know,
continue in
she's
her
somebody who
speaker.
I think is just a fantastic person. But I think that she has the job that she has fought pretty hard to get the speakership, and probably isn't going to immediately walk away from it. So, I mean, on the Republican side, there is no front runner, though I would believe that if Emmer or Stauber decided that they did want to go, they certainly would probably be,
Well, they have an advantage on fundraising.
On
They can
fundraising,
transfer their
name
congressional funding
ID.
over because
Yep.
it's federal funding, and they'd have more name ID.
Yeah.
I just don't know that they choose to because of they have really been climbing the ladder in their caucuses
Well,
in
and,
DC.
and like Angie Craig, Stauber has taken a seat that was not very blue.
And made
I'm
it
sorry,
rock
sorry,
solid.
not very
Very
red, and has made it a pretty safe seat.
Yeah,
and,
completely.
And Emmer in the 6th. That's one of the better ones.
And then so you have to do it's the same thing with Angie Craig. Am I going to take a risk with the U.S. Senate seat, or am I going to sit in my congressional seat that I can hold pretty easily?
And one thing we don't know about the Dems, the Dems should, rightly get their flowers for winning, statewide as many times as they have. But lately they have not had the A+ candidate to run against. So it would be interesting to see what a seasoned DFLer would do against a Republican who could actually raise money, have a message that was intelligent and a little broader, and have name ID and all that. So I'm hoping that's the direction Republicans go. We have to make a much better. I said this on Hauser's show. We have to do a much better job of selling electable candidates to our delegates, because I think the delegates have been choosing poorly, but we also haven't been giving them tremendous choices to choose from.
Also, it's cannot be missed that this will be a midterm for President Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
Which typically for any president, the midterms are a tough go. So for a U.S. Senate race or even for the governor's race, it just should traditionally be a difficult year for Republicans. I don't say that I'm seeing that yet. And also,
It's only been a month.
2022 bucked the trend, right? 2022 was a midterm for Biden, and should have been a good year for Republicans,
Right,
and
but-
was not. In fact, it was a good year for Democrats. So things have been swinging in very non-traditional ways lately politically, and so I don't know that the Democrats could say, "Oh, that's a definitive. This is going to be a tough year."
No, I don't think anyone should count on it. But
No.
under when Trump is not on the ballot, it is easier for Democrats to run against Trump and be
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, 100%.
Well-
and because the turnout
2018 was a disaster for Republic, which is and a midterm for the president should have been, but it was a really rough year for Trump.
But to our listeners, what names didn't we say?
Throw some out there that
What
you'd like to
what
see.
have you heard? As your state senator or state representative or another person kind of been kind of floating it in your community. I want to know that. Or who's a
you
name that should run that maybe we're not thinking of with the Republicans. Certainly, it's wide open. We don't have, nobody has kind of like staked their claim as the front runner here.
No.
And tell me who else.
Yeah.
I wanna
And
know.
that's the thing. Again, I don't think it's fair to say we don't have a bench. We don't have people that have won statewide. That is true, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a strong.
Well, I'm going to crap on our delegates. I'm going to say that our delegates also have not chosen terribly well.
And the party hasn't been recruiting.
And the party has been recruiting, not raising money, and so we have lots of problems. But some of the Republicans on the list we just gave can transcend that. 100% they can. And we'll just have to see who
So it's
that's
going to
be.
be very interesting.
gonna be very
In a year where we're going to have a U.S. Senate seat, an open U.S. Senate seat, potentially an open governor seat, maybe not, all the other constitutional officers, the AG, the Secretary of State, and the auditor, which should be eliminated. Sorry, blauditor, but it should. And then
we didn't mention Julie
all of the
Blaha.
All of the House will be up for re-election, as they always are every 2 years, but the entire state Senate will be up for re-election.
Yeah.
So 2026 is going to be a hot
Yeah.
election year.
Yes, indeed.
Well, and then let's not also just forget that there's a domino effect here because,
Right.
whoever kind of, decides that they're going to leave the spot they have to run is going to, have a domino effect.
100%.
If,
Well,
if Keith Ellison leaves, if Peggy Flanagan leaves and Governor Walz runs for governor, who's he going to pick to be his lieutenant governor? What happens
God, you remember when last minute, what's her name? Lori Swanson decided not to run for Attorney General, and then Keith Ellison decided to run for Attorney General, and then
Yeah, but it was like on the last day, the last few hours of the
no,
last few days.
It was the most stressful 24 hours. I was
Yep.
so mad at everyone.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so we have, as a political science nerd, I love this so much. This is, a lot of the politics we've been talking about aren't fun because everything is so serious. But, this part I think is fun, the horse race to see who's
Yeah,
gonna,
especially
who's
it's
going to do what.
not us.
It's not us, yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah. But anyway, so, and if you're an elected official or someone who of some consequence and you'd like us to mention your name next week, let us know. Reach out. I don't know.
Sure.
Why
Yeah,
not?
definitely.
You know what? If you want your name talked about, become a Patreon, and we'll make
There
sure
you
to
go. There you go.
say that you're a U.S. Senate candidate. There was one time.
Yeah, I'll just tell everyone we're friends.
I don't remember what I don't remember what year it was, but it was when the Secretary of State's office was still in the state office building, which is where the House of Representatives used to have their offices, and I was there to just do my job. And but it was filing day, and somebody made a joke that I was there to run for Attorney General. And I got a call from the then Speaker of the House, Kurt Dowd, saying, "Are you running for Attorney General?"
Yeah.
No, you need to be a way better lawyer than I am to do something like that, or maybe not. I don't know, but no, I am not a candidate for anything, nor will I ever be, and no one will ever assume that I am ever again.
Yeah.
So fun times, at least on that end, are coming our way. I did see one poll that came out that just had Lieutenant Governor Flanagan up against Congresswoman Angie Craig, with Peggy Flanagan having an extreme
Who was the
lead.
poll? Who took the poll?
PPP.
The PPP.
PPP
And
is
here's
the pollster.
deal.
Is the
It's
pollster.
so hard to
I mean, it's
because when
not
you're doing
surprising
like a
that someone who's
primary-
run statewide
Yes, has more state
twice
name
has more
ID.
state name ID. But I mean, but also that's an important part of the game.
Yeah.
The challenge that Angie Craig will have in a Democratic primary, and certainly Democratic endorsement, she would not is that she is voting with Trump beyond votes that she would have to take. Including Lake and Riley, which is going to, I predict, will be the Democrats' new Iraq War vote in just a couple years.
And there's two ways to look at it too. Those votes also helped contribute to her being so popular in the 2nd congressional district, which is a swing district.
No,
and
those just happened. I'm like,
no. I'm saying, but she had been voting
she-
conservatively before Lincoln Riley.
yeah.
Not
That's
that
what I'm
one
saying is
particular.
she's much more conservative
Yeah.
than the Democratic electorate.
So that, and I think that like with Walz, who was considered kind of a moderate at the time, he didn't get endorsed his first time. I think Angie Craig would definitely have to have a primary strategy because I think it would be difficult for her to
it's
get endorsed.
notoriously difficult to poll a primary.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
very difficult to
Yeah.
poll because you don't know who's going to show up. It's primary voters are anyway. So it'll be a long time before we maybe know that if it ends up in a primary.
Yeah.
August, right? August primary? Ooh.
We still have August primaries.
Oh yeah. We should not. We should move our primaries up. Should we add that to our legislative agenda?
Well, we moved
We
out the
should.
presidential primary, right?
We moved
Just
up
the presidential.
primary. Let's
Why
just
didn't we
move
move up the
I
other
don't
one?
know. I don't know.
That's so
It
stupid.
makes us not competitive. It drags out these elections. We don't. It just. There's no good reason to have an August primary. None.
Right.
And I say that as a person who used to vote. We tried for a June. Let's do. We should do a March or April primary. It's fine.
Yeah, I remember being staff when we were trying to decide all of those
Yeah.
things, and if you wait till August, there's just not enough time to.
It used to be September.
Yeah.
August was the big compromise. to move it to
And I know that
August.
there's some
Ugh.
talk about, would you have not veterans, but your military people overseas. It's hard for them to get. But nowadays, where it's so easy to
It's just
exchange
not. There's no
information,
reason.
that I think
We should change. We should change that. We should. I don't know. I don't want to have a vote yet. Maybe when we get a fourth person in here, we can vote on that as an agenda item. And we only have the state fair, uncovering the state fair, and the Senate File 811 nuisance beaver eating allowance.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right.
It's very,
But
very
we
important.
could consider adding.
Wait, didn't we have a
an earlier
DNR
primary.
source? Did we talk about that?
We need to explore that because I
Well,
thought
I
we
think
had a
that was
whistleblower.
my friend.
Yes, and didn't we have a whistleblower?
Yeah, but we didn't talk about it on the air.
No, because she got upset that we didn't talk to her before the show.
Right.
To get
Yes,
yeah.
well,
Well,
she
we'll
come on
protect
the
her
show?
identity
Okay.
We can put a screen in front of her.
I'll talk.
to talk about.
I know a lot about the beavers.
Because she had some very good points to make about nuisance beavers, what they were. We had questions.
I mean, I didn't.
You didn't even vote for that as an agenda item.
No. I
voted no.
appreciated what she said in that text. I did not understand it.
Right, which would
What
be
the
great to
difference
have her
between
on.
a nuisance beaver and a non-nuisance beaver? It just
I
seems
know. I
on.
was like,
It
is
just
it where
depends
they
on whether
build
you
their
like
dam?
beavers or not.
Right.
Like it's just if you're a fan of beavers, if you're not a fan of beavers,
No,
every
and
beaver's a
I
nuisance
disagree.
beaver.
I disagree. I think it's much more about what's the behavior of the beaver in the community. Because if the beaver is just out there not bothering anybody, there's no reason to consider it a nuisance, nor
I've never
to
known a beaver to
consume
bother
it.
anybody.
Yeah, literally. Like,
Except for how-
they
I
make dams.
I have been bothered
No,
by many
I
a
don't.
beaver.
I'm not bothered by beaver. I'm like.
You're not.
I don't care either way about eating them either.
Right.
I mean, I don't mind if other people eat them. I guess whatever. But I'm not going to eat them.
Right.
I've chosen. I've
what is-
gone a life.
I'm not interested
But
in
what does
eating
Mike
them.
Oxbrown think?
Yeah.
What do you call it? The greatest.
All of you. I hate you guys so much. I hate you guys so much. I love that. I hope we're still. I hope we're still getting money from Jeremy Estenson. For those who did not hear that episode, we once got a Patreon commitment from Mike Oxbrown. And I said that name many times before I realized what was happening. But
What was also
he's
funny is
thirsty-
we knew it was coming with a fake name,
But we didn't know what the name was.
fake name was.
Oh, you didn't know what the
No,
I
no.
didn't know that part.
He
I
told
thought
me
you-
he was doing something. I think I even had forgotten that he had told me, which he did, that he was going to put something in, but I didn't. and it would have been funny
Well-
anyway. But and go back. Let's find that one because
Yeah.
that was my favorite
Anyway,
moment
Mike
of
Cox
the podcast.
Brown and I do not
Yeah.
eat beaver.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we don't have enough time to get into some of
that's a
the Trump EO stuff. So I'm just going to ask a little bit of a question. I just kind of want a little bit of your opinions on this because we don't have facts on this. Is something going on with airplanes? It seems like all of a sudden,
So we had another crash today of two smaller airplanes.
yeah, two planes ran into. I think it was in Arizona.
We had the Toronto flight from Minneapolis that
flipped over.
a Delta flight.
Yep.
That came in, looked very, very
mean,
fast,
that
and then it
one-
rolled over and wings off,
Yeah, that was
upside down, and
It's-
no one was killed.
And we had the Black Hawk
there's some
helicopter.
pretty serious injuries, but
Yeah.
but it looks like everyone's going to survive.
No, but it
And
just seems like
Oh,
all of a sudden.
I don't think it's all of a sudden. I think it's been a building problem because we have a shortage of air traffic controllers and they're overworked. And I mean the situation.
But that's
in
not
DC
Toronto. I mean,
No. I know. I like that one. Just seems like I assume it's weather. I mean, I don't. But
so many.
but right. Minneapolis to Toronto, you would think people would be used to the weather. To the weather. But I don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, it's a terrifying time to fly right now.
It's
But
One of my good buddies is a bigwig at Delta, and I would not want his job. I feel I mean, not that it's their fault. It's not.
Can
but
you? It's
No,
just
I mean,
amazing to me
actually,
that no one
like,
died. I saw that accident and it was fiery and
that
horrible.
that actually made me want to fly Delta more because
survived.
those flight attendants were freaking badasses. The swiftness with which they got everyone out and like pulling everyone out, and like, you know, I'm glad we have video on the one hand. On the other, people just get out of the fucking plane. Don't do, you know? But but yeah, no, it was like because you know whenever they do the safety protocol, like, you just sort of like
You just totally
you half
tune out.
think like, if anything happens, there's nothing. I'm not going to survive.
But
And
this
so it was like
made a
sort of like,
difference.
oh look, yeah.
Well,
it's
do you
like-
do you know the story of the safety protocols, like why we have the ones that we have now? And it just so Jenny and I were watching this on one of those shows that you just watch last week. I think it was. It was a flight out of Puerto Rico. And it was a flight out of Puerto Rico.
Oh, that flew into the
Yes.
yeah.
And
the lagoon.
they
I
didn't
remember
know
when that happened.
where the flotation devices were. That they weren't prepared for it. A lot of the people on that flight were not English speakers, so even the instructions that they did get, they couldn't understand.
I remember a former mayor of San Juan, Hernan Padilla, was on that flight.
Yeah. So anyway,
He survived.
but yeah, but I just saw it.
It was just like, does it?
And there were sharks involved. It was a terrible story. But anyway, so with that, let's go to plugs, guys.
Wait, is that and how come the trays are so important? How come putting up the trays are
I
so
don't
important?
think that is
I
important.
don't know. And you know what?
Or
You
your
can,
seat
And your,
upright.
and your
you
arm
can
down.
you can use your phone on those planes too. They just trying to bully you into not having
yeah,
fun.
and also that arm thing. Do you have to have our arm rest down? What's that do?
I don't know. They don't want you to get impaled on it.
Okay, my question about this would like they were upside down, and so then when you unhook your seatbelt, did everyone fall to the?
I don't know
their
because they
heads?
were literally upside down. They must have fallen.
And you're like trying to get
That was horrible. Do you remember the one time I had a flight that there was a fire and the alarms were going off? And I think I was texting you all that I was like texting Javier and my daughter and others. And I was like, look, I don't know what's going on. And they rerouted the flight. I think we were supposed to be in California. We ended up getting rerouted to Nevada. And you were following the flight, and they just kept the flight trajectory going the same way, but we did not go the same way. And that alone was so scary. I couldn't stand it. I cannot imagine what the people went through in Toronto.
I was flying
Just
to
horrifying.
DC once for a college Republicans conference with other college Republicans from Minnesota, and one of them was looking out the window and said that just trying to he faked me out, said that we had just dumped the fuel. And he was like, "There's only one reason why they would dump fuel." So I was like watching the wing, like I was William Shatner on Twilight Zone, looking for the gremlin. And he made it up; it wasn't true. But that's the only time I've been on a flight that kind of made me worried. When I did fly, I think it was from here to Dublin once. My chair was broken. I didn't like that part. But. How about plugs? Who's got stuff?
Amy, you got it?
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
You guys
Brian
got
and
time?
I-
Smoke them if you got them.
Okay.
Maybe so. Okay.
Oh, hey. Brian and I are on the Bob Sansevier Every Tuesday podcast. I will be doing the Al Travis radio show this Friday. Also, Fridays at 8:20, do not miss Capital Clash with Vanita Soccer, myself, and Jeff Hayden on WCCO Radio. I just did a great interview. I just loved it. It was on TRT World News, which is out of Istanbul and London. And it was with some folks from the UK, as well as a couple some military personnel. And we were talking about what's going on with Ukraine, the talks in Riyadh, and the Russians. And it was a really amazing conversation about NATO and Europeans' approach to and how they've sort of been dealing with like Americans, relying on Americans for literally decades to take care of themselves, to take care of them and their military needs. It was a fantastic interview. I really loved it. The panel was very interesting. So you can look that up. That should go live today. It's called Roundtable on TRT World News. I'll also be on London Times Radio tomorrow at 11:15 our time, whatever time that is in London for folks if they're listening in London. And again, we'll be touching a little bit on CPAC, but also a lot about what's been going on internationally with Ukraine, Russia, and those talks that are going down in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Ochenhara show.
So the one thing I'm going to plug is just say to folks. So I've been thinking about this for a while. I just mentioned to these guys right before the show. So I have a bunch of books that I want to read, and it was I think reviving the Wrong About Everything book club. So I'll have more details in the coming weeks. We'll choose a date. Basic what we did last time, sort of same format is we pick a book and then give folks some time to read it, and then just do a Zoom conversation. We might record those conversations for Patreon content. So just letting folks know. And this
We had
is
so much fun with the first one.
It was a lot of fun. And
Just
so
have been meaning to do it again.
So I'll just say that these are books that there's a lot of things that I've wanted to read, and part of it is just understanding this moment and everything else, and so I'll just say I'm going to be picking books, so everyone's welcome. So, but they might be more left leaning than not. But the first book is actually I would say not left leaning, but just it's written by a political scientist. The book is called Undivided: The Quest for Racial Solidarity in an American Church. It's by a political scientist named Hari Hahn, and it's a sort of a case study of a megachurch outside of Cincinnati, and how a group within there navigated sort of racial divisions and such, and I started reading it as a way to think about how we on the left have left behind our organizing cultures, and we need to create more spaces. The point of this book is that there's what the church does is create a space where you can belong before you have to believe. That
yeah, absolutely. You can see that with the mega churches.
Yeah, you come in to get childcare, whatever.
Yep.
You don't. They don't only let you in if you believe in Jesus. They let you in first, and then the Jesus comes later. And so that's part of it. So anyway, if you're interested in that book, it's called Undivided, Hari Hahn. I'll in future weeks. I won't be actually letting you guys know. I won't be here next week. I'll be in Puerto Rico for a conference, so I will not be on the air next week. But when I am back, we'll have details, and so feel free to message us. And that will also serve as a plug for our Patreon, patreon.com/wrongaboutEverything podcast. You show interest in the book club by either being a member of our Patreon or joining our Patreon, and then messaging and say, "Hey, Javier, I want to be on part. I want to be do the book club." We had a good number of people. We had more people than I expected last time around, and it was super fun. So patreon.com/wrongaboutEverything podcast. Have not said this in a while, but I am going to remind everyone that we would love your support in helping us put this together, this program. Pay our producer, and we don't pay ourselves. We just keep this going. We've been doing this for over 10 years now.
Yep, over 10 years, coming up on 11.
And so if you come to our Patreon, if you come to our little show to hear about Minnesota and national news, to hear people who disagree not be disagreeable, mostly, or at least me and Amy, I'm
everyone's friend.
Yes, that's what he thinks.
Very popular.
Yeah, but if you come and you could afford to throw a few bucks, we'd appreciate it, because if you can afford it and you're listening and enjoying it but not giving, you're kind of being a dick. So we're renewing our campaign, asking everyone to stop being dicks.
Yeah, be like Lou Dickmeyer.
Yes.
Patreon and friend of the program, not a dick.
Not a dick. Exactly.
Thanks,
So,
Lou.
Thanks, Lou.
That's my plug.
Giddy up. All right. Well, as Amy said, Amy and I are on the BS show every Tuesday with Bob Sansevier. I was on the Almanac. I'm sorry, at Issue with Tom Hauser last Sunday, and I just wanted to bring up.
Oh, I forget. I'll be on Almanac this Friday.
That last Friday on Valentine's Day, the three of us were we taped a show. It'll be available eventually, but we taped a show with Leading Age Minnesota called Wrong About Aging, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And hey, I can't promise that we're going to do a special show for everybody, but we would love to come and talk to your organization, your group, your place of business, place of worship, trip, whatever it is. And so reach out to us, and we'd love to come and talk to you. So with that, let's go to Spanks and Thanks. Who wants to go first?
I can go first. I'll just have one. It's a general spank, but focused on what, like. So if you've been reading, I'm sure you've been hearing about Doge and the unelected person who is taking a sledgehammer to government and without congressional approval, including getting rid of departments that are congressionally created and therefore not need to be congressionally uncreated. But and you might have seen news about Elon Musk saying that when they got information about Social Security, that there were all these people who are 150 some years old who are getting Social Security, and as others who understand the databases that they're looking at pointed out, they was actually just misreading the database, and that there's a value that that starts at zero. I'm not a data person, but someone was explaining this that that one of the data systems is just simply the data system is old, and so it puts the value of the birth date way before, so that someone appears to be that age, but that the numbers just don't. And so all the experts have looked at it like this, that the numbers that they're putting out there are BS. So just for everyone, as you're listening to these sensational claims, just remember this is a person who's unrestrained by the truth. It's just bullshit, and so be very, very skeptical and understand we are living in a situation. We are living in these things are still reported as one person says this thing and the other person says another, as if facts did not matter. And in authoritarian states, which we're becoming increasingly one. It becomes increasingly difficult to find out what the truth is, and especially when we have a press that is not committed to the truth or committed to saying one thing is true or not. So the Social Security claims are bullshit, and most of the things coming out of Elon Musk are bullshit. So that's my spank, and that's it.
Think.
Amy Cook?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So my spank is a very localized one, just down the street from us. There was a theft and robbery of the pull tab booth at Elsie's. For folks, maybe people know, maybe people don't know that I was a moonlight bartender at Elsie's for several years. I know all the pull tab booth sellers, and also the pull tabs go to charity, and so it is just gross. A couple men grabbed cash from the attendant as they were closing and fled on foot. And so it's just it's very personal. And it's also just a very despicable crime. And so the folks are spanked, and I hope that the cops get you. My thank is, it's difficult. It's going to be for Delta Airlines at this moment. They announced today that they are going to give, with no strings attached, and it does not impact, they don't have to sign away any liability, but they're going to give each passenger of the plane $30,000 to start, just as a goodwill gesture.
Oh, good for them.
And they said that there's no strings attached. It does not come with them waiving any of their rights as a passenger or their liability going forward, but just that they are trying to, do the right thing. And so I think that everyone saw that, and I think everyone sort of imagined themselves on that plane. And I don't think that this will be the end of it. But I would say to Delta, it seems like a good start anyway. So I'm going to thank you.
Okay, well, I will try to be brief. So my spank is going to be to DNC. Is he the vice chair, deputy chair?
I think he's a vice chair.
David Hogg. Hogue.
It's spelled hog.
Spelled hog. But anyway, he is hogging up all the money because he is using DNC fundraising lists in order to get money for his own PAC. So that is already something that is not
illegal?
Probably not do that. Yeah,
not ingratiating him to everybody. Now, one might say that somebody who is a my words, a smarmy looking guy with bad hair, gun activist that might not be the person that's going to help bring white males in rural areas back to the DNC, but it's not my job to tell them what to do. But I'm assuming that there are some very serious conversations being had with Mr. Hogue. I've honestly never heard it said that way. Hogue, huh? I bet you know. Anyway, so he is spanked for just being a turd. And my thank, and you're going to say, why is it a thank?
A lot of people turds today.
Oh, people. Well, there are a lot of
Stumping turds.
a lot of turds out there. But my thank. So this is something that happened in Turks and Caicos, where a bull shark bit off both hands of a woman on the beach. And you might say, that is horrible. Why would you be thanking that? Well, it should be a spank because, first of all, don't go in the water. That's the shark's house. So you're asking for it. But this woman got her hands bit off while she was trying to take its picture.
Okay, yeah, now that
Yeah, see, that changes everything because it was a 7-foot bull shark.
Oh my
Wait, did she get in the water?
She was in the water.
She was
That's
trying to take a
insane.
picture of it?
And it was hip deep, so it wasn't that deep. So give her credit that she wasn't like that deep in it. But
I don't give her credit. Get out of the water.
get out of the water. That's the
If
shark's
you're a
house.
7-foot bull shark.
Yeah,
Go the other way.
and he bit off both of her hands.
Ugh.
So I'm only making it a thank
Don't take selfies with sharks.
because don't
stop
take
that, people.
Don't take selfies with wild animals. Not moose, not bear,
Not
not
wolves.
sharks, not wolves, none of it. And bison, you're seeing it with.
How about beavers?
I don't know. We should
think-
ask Senator Hauschild.
I think they're fine.
What about-
Are they mean? I don't think they're mean.
I think they can be.
They can be feisty. They can cut right through
All
some
right,
wood.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And do not take pictures with beavers either. You might make them nuisance beavers.
But in any event,
Don't
so
take selfies with beavers.
don't. Some of these people, you get what you deserve. So I
that's
guess roll the dice.
That makes
but then
me not want to go to Turks and Caicos.
Well,
I didn't know they were shark
don't go in the
infested
water.
waters.
Don't go in the water. I'm not afraid of the water. I just respect it because that's the shark's house. So in any event, I am GOP strategist with a blood sugar value presently of 105, which is quite good. Brian McDaniel.
And I am former Republican Senate Majority Leader with a blood sugar level of 104, Amy Koch.
You don't know.
Okay, whatever. I'm Democratic strategist, the Puerto Rican heat, Javier Morillo.
And we are
Wrong
about
everything.
everything.
This way, Gabe.
Hi, everybody.
Stay out of the water. You're going to need a bigger
Shorts
boat.
live.